Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wilde, and welcome to the Spaces Between. I hope you guys are just having a fantastic day today. And yes, it is just a happy Thursday. Oh, goodness. Yeah, it is a happy Thursday. Um, it's, well, mostly a happy Thursday. We're not doing Theology Thursday, we're doing just Thursday. So, sort of Thursday. Anyways, yes. So, I have an ad here. I'm going to do it so as I can do some ad libbing. It's by Zippix Nicotine Patches, and I have to. Ugh, this age thing, I tell you. So this episode is brought to you by Zippix Nicotine Infused Toothpicks, a satisfying, discreet, and great tasting way to curb cravings anytime, anywhere. Perfect for flights, events, restaurants, or anywhere smoking and vaping are banned. Zippix satisfies both nicotine cravings and the hand to mouth habit with 6 long lasting flavors in 2 milligram or 3 milligram strengths, proudly made in the USA, and one of the most cost effective options out there. Not into nicotine? We'll try our caffeine or B12 infused picks for a boost. Zip more, smoke less. Visit zippixtoothpicks.com and get 10% off your first order with code RUMBLE. That is RUMBLE. And you must be 21 or older to purchase. And I do have to warn you that nicotine is an addictive chemical. However, in case you didn't know, they're also finding there's a lot of unsuspected, or maybe I should say, unannounced medical benefits to nicotine that they don't want to tell you about. Mm-hmm. There is. So, because, yeah, they don't want to tell you about any of those. Hello, Gemini. Yeah, they really don't want to tell you about those. Which is interesting. Like, for MECFS, ME is CFS is like chronic fatigue and similar types of diseases. And they have found that microdosing with nicotine can often give people a boost, or those fighting or dealing with things like long COVID. So, yeah, to me, it's very interesting because it is. And most people don't know about that. They don't realize it. So, yeah, that's all there is to it. So, what are we talking about today? You want to know? It's one of those things that I find is important to talk about on a regular basis. So, right out of the bag, protection. So, I find that it is important to talk about protection practices. Hey, Truth Refugee. Hey, Freeman. Talking about protection on several occasions. Why? Well, boys and girls, kids of all ages, it's very, very important because no matter where we go or what we do, protection is absolutely essential. We put shoes on to protect our feet. We wear clothes to protect our skin from the elements or from prying eyes, right? In some of the places where we work, we wear glasses to protect our eyes from flying debris. We wear earplugs to protect our ears from sound. In some lines of work, we wear hats to protect our heads. We wear seatbelts in our cars to protect us from going flying if our car should stop suddenly. Same with airbags. Protection is used all around the world in various ways. We lock our doors to protect us, in theory, from intruders, right? Or have a dog. I have a big dog. I have a little dog. I also have a cat. I'm not sure which one is more dangerous. It's kind of a toss-up. Some folks pray for protection. Some people have witch bottles or witch bags. Some wear charms or other types of jewelry for protection. Some use knotwork or have other things around their home for protection. There are many different ways that people might have things set up. Here, there we go. For protection. I'm not saying you need a blue alien. What else might I have? Oh, I have an owl. I have all sorts of little things right here. Athame, letter opener. They both kind of serve a similar purpose. You can open things. So, but yeah, there's a lot of different stuff. So in the show notes, I'll have an article link from Patty Wigington. It's an article she wrote back in 2021. And she talks about a couple of different protection magic basics. I'm going to talk about that. And then I've got a list that I kind of go over. There's a couple of different schools of thought. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because in our society right now, there's some chaos happening, right? You can see it every time you listen to the news. Actually, you can see it just about any time you hear media of any kind, whether it's the media here, on Rumble, YouTube, look on Facebook, the radio. You can see it on your social media accounts. Here. Your social media accounts. You can see my phone face, that kind of thing. You talk to your friends, your family, your network, that kind of thing. Anywhere you go, people are talking about what's going on in the world. Sometimes they're talking about the esoteric. Sometimes they're talking about the physical, meaning what's happening with the planet, whether it's earthquakes or snow or fire. Here in North Idaho, it's fire season, and we have 2 fires going right now in the county that I live in. One is to my east and one is to my south, and both are pretty big hot spots. We're expecting some rain this weekend, so hopefully that'll help. Hopefully help a lot. It's not quite like what's going on further down in the southwest, which they're experiencing some pretty major fires. And those are going to need some major weather pattern changes, I think, to put some of that stuff out. If we have an app up here that we use to track fires, it's called Watch Duty, and it's kind of cool. I really like it because you can really see what's going on with the fires and stuff. And because of that, I get alerts. I use Nixle also, Nixle, and I really appreciate that. And I'm able to really see what's going on with the fires and get the alerts. And with Nixle, I can see what's going on as far as emergencies that are happening in the community and keep updated for like traffic events. And I started using Nixle when my boys started driving. So that's been 15 years ago. Yeah, because you know how boys are. They don't always tell you everything. Or kids. We'll just say kids. It's not just boys. Kids. They don't always tell you everything. And if they had a fender bender, I wanted to hear about it. Because, it's a rural county. Not everything's like next door. So, yeah. So, with that, trying to keep my finger on the pulse locally, and then I do pay attention to regional news and worldwide news because I want to know. I'm nosy like that. So doing protection things is important. I wear my raven skull here for as a touchstone. I find myself touching my skull on a regular basis. It reminds me of my path, and it helps me focus, right? And then my stone here, this is a piece of, sorry, brain cramp, tourmaline. It's black tourmaline. And it's been dipped in some adhesive to keep the stone from breaking off and chipping as I wear it, because it's a delicate silicate rock, or silicate based rock, and it would break if it wasn't sealed correctly. So yes, I wear both of those, and I often wear other bits and pieces of jewelry, either on my as rings, bracelets, earrings, that kind of thing. Sometimes I wear beaded things with stones in my hair, or as needed. I guess it depends on what I'm doing, what's going on. I listen to my intuition, and I've noticed that my intuition is getting stronger as time has been going. And there are times when I really feel like, nope, I need to take as much off as possible, and like fly beneath the radar so no one can tell. And other times I feel like I need to wear all the things and then add some extra rocks in my pocket, because sometimes I need that extra protection. And sometimes I might just need to have an extra rock or two to throw at somebody, because you never know, right? So, talking about basics here. So, protection magic. Now in the past I've said magic is energy, energy is magic, right? And think of a witch jar, witch bag, that kind of thing as potential energy. A lot of times it's just there sitting, and as we're creating that type of amulet, we're infusing it with potential energy, so it's there to protect you. Because if you're creating something to leave at your doorway or your entryway or within your home, it's there to protect you for the what ifs. And so those protection symbols, or those protection bags, are really important, and they're not always like really obvious things. And so for those of you who may be in the pagan pantry or the broom closet, a lot of the protection magic isn't like in your face and in bold print with sparkles and bangles, because protection magic should be subtle, like living rurally here in North Idaho. It makes me laugh when I see a sign that says, "This property is protected by ADT." They have these little blue stop signs with a white border on them. And all I can think is like, so when the power goes out, or if we have one of those events here in the US where society collapses, that's the property that's going to get looted first, because they have the good stuff. If they have to be protected by ADT, they're looted first. That to me is not a stop sign. That's a green sign. That's a go. That's where we go first. Because it's not subtle. It's an invitation. So, just saying, protection should be subtle, especially when it comes to magic, because you're protecting yourself, right? And so your witch bottle doesn't have to be huge. It could be little. A friend of mine has a store, and she has, it's like a prayer chain or prayer scarf kind of. And in this, it's like a woven daisy chain, and it has like a prosperity and prayer and protection prayer and trying to think, longevity and a couple other things. There's like a dozen different little bubbles in this thing, and they're set in like a flower type of arrangement. And so the flower bouquet pop thing goes over or on each one of these little spell bags. So it covers it up and it protects it, it hides it. So it's like this piece of art, if you will, and it covers it up. It looks pretty. And it fits in with her decor. So sometimes the best way to have your protection is to use a little bit of subterfuge and hide it. So if you already collect something, right? Maybe you collect things like owls, or maybe you have things like, well, this is a ram for Capricorn. So that kind of thing. Or maybe you have, skulls. Maybe you go hunting. This is a 3D printed one because I have a Centauri printers by Elegoo. Elegoo's awesome. I love my Centauri printers, by the way. Plugging them slightly. Yes, I am, because they're awesome and they're so easy. Oh, my stars, they're easy. Or maybe you have something else. So this is those little cork things, cork 3D things. It's pretty slick, right? Pretty cool. Be really easy to put a little something on the bottom, right? Or maybe you like signs, right? Those live, laugh, love things that everybody has around. I like that one. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. True, though. And whatever your artwork is, I'm sure you can find something. There's something out there. Maybe you're going to paint. Did you know that you can paint runes into the walls and then cover it up with other paint? You're like your second coat. And then, or you can paint your symbols in with moon water and then cover it up with paint and it's sealed in. And what do you know? Suddenly you have protected space that no one can just wash it away. So there, yeah. Just saying. So, when it comes to protection and such, you need to figure out what's going to work best for you. So what's going to fit into your decor if you're trying to be subtle, right? And not have it stand out. Because one, you don't want someone to damage your protection, right? You don't want someone to go through and break your locks. It'd be like, someone walking in and throwing a brick through your window. Don't want that. That would be bad. So you need to protect yourself. And if possible, send that negative energy back to the person who has given it to you. So one easy way, simple, basic, is just turn your broom upside down in your home. And that unwanted negative energy will go away. So just leave a broom upside down, propped next to your front door. So if it's negative and you don't want it, it'll just kind of go away. So quick, fast, easy way, you can make a witch bottle. Yeah, right. So small glass jar with a lid, put some rusty objects that are kind of sharp in there, like nails, razor blades, pins, needles, that kind of thing, and half full. And depending on how repulsed you are, you can put your own urine in it. Now, to me, that's kind of icky, but if that's the direction you want to go, absolutely go for it. Or you can use salt and vinegar, whatever works best. It also depends upon the level of protection you want. As something that you're going to continue handling, or is this something going to be in your home, or is this something you're going to take outside and bury? Because if it's going to be in your home, I wouldn't pee in the bottle. I would just stick with salt and vinegar, right? Sea salt works good if you're going to use salt. And you know what? There's sea salt everywhere now, kids. You don't have to just use iodized table salt anymore. I mean, you can go to just about any store and you can get sea salt. Amazon will deliver it. Walmart will deliver it. The dollar store sells it, for crying out loud. It's everywhere. So if you use sea salt, put a pinch of salt in there, even table salt, and then cap it and seal it with melted wax. Now, does it really matter what color the wax is in a pinch? No. What is appealing to you is going to work best. For these types of things, I often use clear wax or white or black because that's my preference and that's what resounds with me when it comes to protection. I'm building a wall. I'm going to make it black. If it's going to be kind of hidden, I'm probably going to use white. So it all depends. So it's going to flex a little bit with you. This is part of the reason why I get really upset with folks that do the gatekeeping when it comes to magic, because you cannot have a gatekeeper in magic because so much of it is intuitive and has to match the person doing it. If you're going to bury it, dig a hole in the ground at least 6 inches deep, more if you have time. If you're going to go deeper than that, dial 211, 411, whatever it is in your area. So you're not going to run into some cable because there are idiots out there who bury things where they shouldn't. The further away from your home, the better. So if you have a big property, that would be better. If you can do it kind of isolated like, that's cool too. Now, witch bags are similar. You just wear it on yourself and don't pee on it. Use a small cloth pouch, and instead of sharp objects, put smaller things like lodestone, because that'll draw positive energy to you, right? Because lodestone it's a magnetic. You can use agates, which are awesome, and they draw really good energy into your home. Turquoise is also awesome. I love turquoise. It's so pretty. Fossils, if you can find a small one. Herbs are fantastic, like rosemary, basil, dill, and things that have protective properties. And tie it shut, preferably with a red yarn. Now, if you're into sigils, you can also sew those sigils right on the outside of the pouch, and you can carry it in your pocket. You can wear it around your neck. Ladies, you can wear it or keep it in your bag if you're always going to have it on you. Put it in your kids' backpacks. This is one of those things where college kids stick it in their back. Honestly, I totally would. Now, your home protection. Stick out your turf, man. Take out those iron spikes, railroad spikes. For those places that have them, absolutely use them. You can engrave on them. You can write messages on them. You can say, this is my turf. This is my space. Nasty messages, I don't know, but you can say, hey, this is my space, thou shalt not pass, that kind of thing. Or the sigils of your own design to mark your property, and then just along the perimeter. Now, I would make a map. I would just straight up make a map so you know where they are, because if you sell the property, aren't you going to want to take your protections with you? Or if it's a rental, yeah, you're going to want those. Now, amulets are also protective. They can be worn on your person, placed on your home. Now, Sculpey clay. Yeah, have a craft day with the kids. Everybody's got the Sculpey clay. That's that air dry or bake in your oven clay. You can carve symbols in them. And it's like, oh, hey, I made look at my, claymation pumpkin I made, that kind of thing. And you bake it, right? Or go down to the local ceramic spot and you paint sigils onto it as you're painting, right? And it fires. You paint one layer with the sigil and then you paint another layer to cover up the sigil so it's hidden and it's sealed in there and it's fired and this is beautiful color and that's awesome. That's yours. And then with the clay, that's awesome. Now, a lot of folks are into painting stones. You can do the same thing with stones. Paint on the stones, and you can leave them in your flower garden out front. You can put them in your plant pots, right? For kids, you can paint, like hagstones, string through the stone, and the kiddos can wear them. Hazelwood with holes in them or pre-drilled, you can wear those. Those are good protection things. And then for those of you that have access to mistletoe and you don't have pets, mistletoe is very good for hostile spirits. So shell powder is something that eggshell powder is also known as cascarilla. It's something that you can use in your home, and it's easy to make. It's easy to have. All you got to do is, if you use eggs, save your eggshells. Really easy. Um, Save them up. Give them a quick bake in the oven. So they're dried. Don't want to toast them too much. It's low temp because you want to basically bake out the egg whites or egg leavings on the inside. So yeah, just have dried shells, and then you want to crush them up into a powder. You can leave them as a powder to use, or you can mix them with a little bit of water and pack them into a container of some sort, generally a paper container, like toilet paper roll. It's kind of big, but you could, and then let it air dry. And if you use a toilet paper roll, you can peel it off kind of like a piece of chalk, and then you can write with it. So you can write sigils using that like a piece of chalk. And then teddy bears are considered lucky talismans for kids. And you can always, the stuffies and stuff, you can always give them protective chants to the stuffies, and before you give them to the kids, you can put the charms and such inside the stuffies' tummies, and then sew them back up and give them to the kiddos. You make clothes for them. And with my grandkids or my daughter, you can make clothes for them. And as you're sewing things, like, oh, isn't this just a cute pattern as you're doing the cross stitching on them? Because it's fun, Or you go to Build-A-Bear or something, and you can do the same kind of thing. A lot of folks will put like lavender in some of those bears or some of those pet stuffies because, hey, it's easy to sleep. And you can say, hey, this is your monster bear. They'll protect you from the monsters, and it'll have like lavender in it or whatever else inside the bear to help protect from the monsters and other bad things, which are all good things, right? We like those things. Those are very good things. So what else can you do? Well, there's a lot of things, because when it comes to paganism, there's so many different things we can do to protect ourselves. Oh boy, bright light. And it's not just, just those little things. And now I want you guys to do your own research. And as you're doing the research, I want you to, oh, hey, Lucky. I want you to be writing things down in your notebook, because notebooks are good. I want you to be keeping track of things. So when it comes to the negative energy and such, and all of that, don't just stop at any one thing. If you have a hoodie and you've got the strings on the hoodie, you can think of your protective charms or things you feel that you need to be protected from, and your rituals, your words. You can think of them as you tie your knots, because knot work can be can be closely tied to spell work as you tie your knots. And then every time you touch the knots, you're keeping in tune and activating those spells, right? And that is good too, right? Or your shoes, tying your shoes. And so pagan protection, just it's all encompassing, right? And it touches on a variety of different things. And as an omnitheist, I don't just grab at any one thing, just reading Patty's article, right? I talked about a couple of different things. Everything from making a spell jar using cascaria. Those are not just one tradition. Those are a couple of different ones. And using a talisman, whether it's, necklace something or other, or a stone something or other, or having, a skull or some other thing going. That's all good stuff for protection. And those are often used across the board for a variety of different things. Now, you can burn a candle for protection. People have been having candles in their houses for millennia. Those don't look pagan, by the way. Those are just candles, especially if you get a smelly one. And those change with the seasons. So you can often get different colors and different smells. And a lot of those smells are also really good with different protectives. So if you get one that's like Christmassy smelling and red, that's a very good actual protective candle, protective spell candle. I'm sorry, everyone. but there's a lot of protective elements in the pumpkin spice season or spices. And so if you're burning a pumpkin spice candle, technically you can think of it as a protection spell. I'm not a pumpkin spice kind of person, but technically that is a smell that you could use as a protective spell. Just use the real smells and not just the artificial ones because, yeah. So the biggest thing, I guess, in any of that, if you're using scented candles, make sure you set your intention before you do any of it, right? Just like any working. A couple of deep cleansing breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Or as I tell my daughter, in through the ears, out through the eyes. I tell her that because she's often dealing with anxiety, trying to get her out of the anxiety loop because, we all have it, right? We really do. and I'll switch it up and it freaks her out. She makes her giggle. So, but yeah. Deep cleansing breaths, set your intention. The thing I'm doing is to protect me. It's to protect myself. It's to protect my space. It's to protect my family. It's to protect my things, my pets, my car. A lot of people have a protective amulet in their car because you know what? They don't want their car to be hurt in some way. Nothing wrong with that. So, an amulet or a talisman, as I mentioned from the article from Patty, is generally something that's been imbued using rituals or symbolism. It's been imbued with protective properties, and you can carry it on yourself or in your vehicle or in a bag or placed in your home to protect you to protect from negative energy or damaging energy and reflect, in theory, back to the person. Sometimes that reflecting back to the person will tell you where it came from, because I got to tell you, sometimes finding that out is the best way to do it. They're the best protection. If you know who's targeting you, you know how to fight back then. I mean, not all battles are fought quietly. I'm generally one to fight quietly, fight the quiet fight. That's it. Not quite the spider in the shadows, but definitely use subtlety, the quiet breath of wind. Sometimes you really do need to use the big stick. So you can use hagstones. People collect hagstones, Sometimes you need the hagstone to look nice on the shelf. Sometimes you need to throw at someone to protect yourself. It just depends on which tool you need and at what time, right? Carrying carnelian in your pocket. I do that often. I love carnelian. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. Salt. Okay, I mentioned salt earlier. Salt is fantastic. You can use it at any point for protection. It's one of those covers everything kind of things. Just like you can cleanse almost anything with water, you can use salt in almost any kind of cleansing or protection type of spell. I mean, yes, do it. I have a pound of salt in my craft room at all times just for magical type stuffs because it is that important. It can protect against the negative energies. It can be used in washing your floors. It can be used in, you can place it in your doorway, your entryways. I have some that you could say I double booked some sea salt. I left it out in the light of one of the blood moons that was at an equinox, and it was the sea salt, and I did the whole thing because I wanted to make sure I had this salt really empowered. Because every so often you come across something that really needs that extra, it really needs that extra smack. And I've used it twice. because the thing that I encountered really needed that little bit of extra oomph. And that's kind of all there was to it. So if you need that extra really deep cleansing, that would be the salt to use. Doesn't take a lot. And but when you need it, you need it. So rituals can be very protective also, and cleansing. So, but if you're going to do it, make sure you set your intention first. Do your spell work, right? Whether you're doing a circle casting or other type of ritual to do your protection around your home, your property, yourself, or making just that nice safe space that you have to retreat to, because sometimes we all need that safe space to retreat to, right? Now, I've talked about sigils and runes. There are a lot of examples nowadays. I mean, so many. Can't believe how many. 5 years ago, if you had gone to, say, Pinterest looking for sigils or runes, you would have seen mostly just the Norse versions of any of them. There wouldn't have been a lot of contemporary made or contemporary designed sigils or runes. There just wouldn't have been. Nowadays, though, man, they're everywhere. Be careful. Don't just go to Pinterest or Google or whatever and say, oh, you know what? This one's really cool. I like this. I'm going to draw it on me and I'm going to get this tattooed over my belly and it's going to just keep me from being sick ever. Well, if you don't know what it is, don't get it tattooed on yourself. It's like, back when that TV show Dark Angel was really popular and people were getting the barcodes on the back of their necks and they didn't necessarily know what the barcode was. And they found out it was like a barcode for condoms or some whatever. Be careful. Know what you're using. It's kind of like don't ever take an untested gun hunting. Know what you're using. Don't just take a tool and assume that you've got it. Pay attention. Pay attention. So, if you're going to use sigils or runes, educate yourself first. Don't just assume you know what you're doing, and don't just take somebody else's word for it, unless it is like your leader in your coven or your circle. Make sure if it's leadership, that's one thing, but don't assume Google knows what they're talking about, or AI or Chat GPT or whatever. You can invoke a deity, absolutely. A lot of people do. Now, I follow specific deities, and occasionally I will invoke them, especially if I'm doing a working, because that's something I will do. But that's my thing. That's my jam. Be careful of which deities you invoke, especially if you're doing protection or sigil work. Don't invoke the wrong deity for the wrong sigil and back and forth and vice versa. Like a water deity when you're trying to bury something in the ground. It just doesn't make sense, Pay attention to what you're doing and make sure that they are the right things, right? Because you need to make sure that even though I'm an omnitheist, not all deities fit the right process. That's all. Just make sure you research, make notes, refer back to your notes, and don't just jump into the lake without checking to see how deep the water is, kind of a thing. Know what you're doing. So physical barriers are good, like the iron spikes along your property perimeter. Excellent idea. Map them out so you know where they are. That way, if you move, you can take them with you, because you don't want to leave traces of your own energy on somebody else's property. That'll leave you behind, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Unless it's your family you're leaving there, and then you want to, that's something else entirely. So just pay attention and keep a map. Herbs and plants are fantastic things for protection, like rosemary, rue, uh, peppermint. I'm just total blank right now. There's some very fantastic plants out there for protection, that are, herbally great for protection. There's some that are great for physical protection, like raspberries with thorns. Plant them under your window. That is a great protection. And then you have raspberries to eat, and then you have raspberry leaves that you can use in magical workings. Both things are awesome. Do your research, because not all things that you might want to plant or use around your home as a physical thing are appropriate for your space, because you don't want to take something that's invasive and try to plant it around your home. That would be bad. Match your environment. And also, if you have pets, you don't want to have something growing in your home that is poisonous or toxic to your plants or your family, because if you're allergic to something, why would you have it? I don't care how protective it is. If you're allergic, why is it there? So there's a couple of words. Apotropaic magic is a term that refers to magic intended to avert evil or misfortune. So it's pretty good, right? So that uses protective symbols and rituals. So those are things. So if you hear the word apotropaic magic, that's what that is. Intent and will. So you have to use your intent and your will. So it's very, very important. Use your intent. Set your intent and exercise your will, because you are exercising your intent and your will. You're using your energy to set this working, to use this thing. You're using your energy for it, right? And so it's your energy that's going into this barrier. And that's why we're using physical objects to set this barrier, right? We're not just leaving it out there as an untied off thing. Because if you try to set a barrier without having a physical object tied to it, you'll leave your energy open and it'll just keep running, kind of a thing. And it'll suck your energy out and you'll be tired, and we don't want that. Now, specific symbols such as the pentacle, triple moon, and runes, that kind of thing, are often used as protective symbols, right? Because they often have meaning, not just to the user, but to the person who sees them. So wearing, just for Christians who wear a cross or a crucifix, or myself who wears skull, those are things that people will see and notice, and it's like, oh, that must be a thing. Why are you wearing that thing? And for protection, or a stone, for protection or luck, whatever. People see those symbols that you have and they know, oh, you're using it for this thing, and they see it, right? But most effective versions of protection are the things that resonate with the individual protection practitioner and your specific beliefs and your specific traditions. So as an omnitheist, I use what works for me, right? If you're Norse, you're going to use Norse traditions and practices. If you're following an Egyptian path, you're going to use Egyptian practices and traditions. If you're Celtic, you're going to use Celtic. If you're Christian, you're going to use Christian. If you're an atheist, you're going to use atheist. If you're my husband, you might use a shotgun. I don't know. So it's going to vary between all of everybody. Everybody's unique everybody's on their own path. So don't assume that what you're doing for you is the only way to do it. A, that's what gatekeepers do. And B, because we're all on our own path, we're all going to do things a little bit differently. And sure, this is why getting together and talking about things and, hey, this worked for me, it might work for you. Or, hey, maybe you should try a little less salt, a little more cascarilla. Or, have you tried hot foot powder or Florida water, or maybe apple cider vinegar? Or, hey, how about red wine vinegar? Have you tried that one? Or, I found some really great railroad nails or railroad spikes the other day down at, such and such pawn shop, and those were fantastic. And, they had a whole bunch of them. Maybe try that. Or, the swap meet, I found a pound of, there were actual iron nails left over from blah, 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 blah. And those are fantastic. That sharing of information and knowledge is great. That's a great discussion. And that's how you share the information and we all grow on our path. And that's when we build each other up. And by building each other up, we expand our knowledge. And when we expand our knowledge, we all become better pagans and witches, and our experiences expand, and we all do better, right? And we all become better at protecting one another. And this umbrella of protection for each other becomes bigger and better. And that's the opposite of what happens when we start tearing at each other and poking at each other and saying, you can't do it that way. You can't use that there. And so when you tell someone they can't do something, especially when they're first learning, you're defeating them before they even have a chance to try. So don't do it. So like if someone said, hey, I made my very first jar of moon water and I did it in a Tupperware container. It's like, well, that's awesome. Good job. I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad you did that. What'd you think of it? Did you like doing it that way? Or is there something you want to do differently? That education aspect or, why'd you use the Tupperware container? Was it, is that something you preferred or was that just because, is that all you had? You want a jar? I would offer a jar just because I collect them and I try to give them away so I don't have too many. Or if someone says, well, I didn't have any jars, so I used a Tupperware container. It's like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. And, sometimes you got to use what you have. I am a big one for using what you have. Don't go out and buy all brand new crap just to be a witch or a pagan. We don't have to. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I have for tools, I have just kind of glommed onto as my path has expanded and grown and developed. My alchemy, I found out while hiking because I put out to the universe and the gods and my spirit guides that I needed an alchemy. And when I was out hiking, I really truly found a beautiful hunting knife laying on the ground at my feet. I was out looking, oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful view. Look at that view. It's awesome. Those are beautiful mountains. Oh, look, there's an elderberry tree there. Oh, look, there's an elderberry tree there. Oh, look, I can see some deer over there. And I turned around, looked down at my feet, like, oh, look, it's a hunting knife. That's fantastic. This is mine now. It must come home with me. That's really how it happened. Did I leave something? Oh, yeah, I left a gift. You bet your buttons I did. But that's how it happens, right? Before then, I just kind of used what I had. I didn't have a designated alchemy. So we use what we have. Our ancestors used what they had. They didn't have a lot of designated tools because, you know what? Once upon a time, you had a belt knife. That was your fork, your spoon, your alchemy, your knife, your toothpicker, your, all of the things. And because it was all of the things, you took really good care of it, right? And you got a high quality knife. And that's just all there is to it. So when it comes to that kind of thing, you pay attention to your tools. Like your ritual bowls and all that kind of thing. Could you have a really nice hunting horn or a horn to drink out of? Sure, you could. But was it necessary? Nope. You may have just had a wooden cup. So my point here is, guys, use the tools that you have. Save up for the really awesome tools, the ones that call to you, the ones that beg you to take them home. That's what you do. Until then, use the ones that you have. You don't have to have the latest and greatest, the best and the brightest. And sometimes they're not the ones that you really need. Just a hint, a nudge from someone who's rapidly approaching that crondom, crondom. Not quite sure what the fancy word is there. Um, yeah, and when it comes to magic, remember, magic is energy, energy is magic, and we get what we put out there, right? And the relationships that we have with the divine are the relationships that we cultivate, just like with those around us, right? Our friendships, our the relationships with our significant others, our family, etc., etc. And so the things that we need to have in our lives, the things that are important to us, are the things that we're going to put energy into. So if you need a good athame, you're going to spend the energy, looking for it, and you're going to put it out into the universe that, hey, this is what I need. Or, like somebody else I know, hey, I need this really good tool. Universe, I really need this thing, and so I can accomplish this chore. Help me find what I need. And you know what? She achieved it. And that was pretty awesome. So when you are trying to accomplish your goals and do the things, put it out there. Tell the universe what you need so you can achieve what you have to do. And so when it comes to your protection spells, journal out what you're trying to protect yourself from, whatever it is. Whether it's, family members, people who used to be friends, enemies, society. Because society sometimes is just a bunch of sheeple waiting to fall off a cliff. They really are. Or maybe it's, Martians. Sheeple. Close, stick with sheeple. Or, you're worried about your trip you're going to be driving down the road on, and you want to make sure you have a safe trip. And it's like, you know what? I'm worried about my trip. I want to make sure I have a good, safe trip, and I want to make sure I'm writing the things out, and I want to make sure I've got everything right, and this is what I want to accomplish, and how am I going to accomplish it? And you're just write out what you need. And if you put the intent out there, if you focus your will, you will accomplish what you need to do. You do have to keep focusing your will. You can't just I got to do this thing and then give up. I mean, that'd be like saying, I'm going to build this house and then throw a hammer at the ground and say, okay, it's going to be built now. No, you got to keep going. You have to keep putting in the work. You got to keep doing the thing. But by saying, I'm going to do this thing and then keep putting the energy into it, it will happen. It's that focused energy, that focused will, that focused desire. And just like having, if you have that hoodie and you've got those strings right there and you've got that knot work, every time you touch that knot, it's like, hey, yeah, I've got it. Or if you've seen any of those TV or movies, TV shows, whatever, where the football team is on their way out the door and they smack the sign because that's their good luck charm on the way out the door. And it's starting to fade because everybody smacked it so many times. It's like they're touching it for good luck. They've done it so many times, putting their will into it. I bet you that residual magic that's built up into that sign, that residual energy, is pretty flippin' fantastic. Think about it. Betcha. So, remember the friendship bracelets we all made back in the 80s, 90s? All those knots that we tied. Oh, this is my best friend ever. I'm going to make this bracelet. She loves this color. He loves this color. We're going to do it this way, then we're going to do it that way. Oh, we're just best friends, And, some of it, we made the bracelets because we were bored and we had the string, and it was fun, and I love these colors and all that. And some of us picked out those colors because those were our friends, and we just wanted to make something nice for them, If you're worried about the protection charms, those friendship bracelets full of knots there. Think about how many protection knots are in those. So, anyways, this is Paisley Wilde. We are in the spaces between. I don't know if it's darkness or light, good or bad. Definitely a little bit of chaos. Society, it is an adventure. But well, thank you for joining me today. I hope you come back again. And if you do check out those Zippix nicotine toothpicks, I want to know about it because I suggested them to a friend of mine and I haven't heard back yet. I'm kind of curious about the caffeine ones. Excuse me. Because I like caffeine. Caffeine's my friend. But, anyways, thanks for joining me, you guys. I hope you have a fantastic day. So, merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And I will talk to you next week. Maybe sooner. We should do more threesome videos. Yeah, we should. All right. Bye, guys.